First of all, I want to tell that I've seen testimony of Anna, and I really love the film.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for watching.
So, sir, my first question will be, sir, most of the filmmaker I've spoken to, they all have done engineering. You have also done engineering, and then you
Yeah.
worked as a software developer. So, how
Yeah.
your journey started from working as an engineer, then shifted to filmmaking?
Yeah. So I think for me the journey I think was probably pretty similar to everyone else, and in India, uh, it's weirdly the case that everybody first becomes an engineer and then decides what they want to do with their life. So my journey was also pretty similar, but the only difference was, even when I was doing my engineering in the state of Gujarat, I did my engineering. So even when I was doing there, I think I had a company of these voracious cinephiles around me. So every day we used to like watch cinema, discuss cinema, and just keep talking about it. There was no end to it. And luckily, my college, the college that I went to, which is Dhirubhai Ambani Institute in Gujarat. So when I was doing bachelor's there, the college had a separate track of humanities. Yes, it is a engineering degree with engineering courses, but as students, you have an option to, I think, take some electives in the humanities track. So that is where I think for the first time, I clearly remember my professor, Mr. Adityanath Sarkar. He was teaching a semester-long course on Satyajit Ray, and a semester long. He even offered another. I remember a semester-long course on science fiction. So like these were the moments where, me being a cinephile, like who really appreciates watching cinema, there was another sort of interest that was sort of nurturing and developing, where I was also, after taking those courses, after dissecting and analyzing those films, somewhere there was some sort of curiosity inside me as to what exactly is happening on the other end, like behind the scenes, and that really caught my attention, and I really wanted to do something. But I would say that those are probably like the early stages to for me to become a filmmaker. And obviously back then we didn't have much resources to do anything about it. So and because I did a bachelor's in like the engineering, I had to do masters in engineering. Like I really wanted to, I really badly wanted to join FTII after my bachelor's, but I think the timing was so not correct that I think FTI was also going through this major transition in their leadership, and the politics was changing, and the students there advised me, don't join now.
Which year we are
It's
talking
not.
about? Which
I
year?
think it's about 2014, 2014, 2015. Like that was when I just finished my bachelor's. So when I was about to apply, they were like, "No, don't. I don't think it is. It's going to be good." Yeah, and so for some reason, I also went to SRFTI to inquire how it's over there, and even there at that time, I don't know, the students were not happy, or somehow I didn't get the feel that maybe this is not the right time. So because then I thought, okay, if I have to do masters, then maybe I have to go to the US, and then I can pursue something over here. And that's how the whole journey started.
Okay. Then you worked as a software developer first or went to US?
Yeah, so obviously with a bachelor's in engineering, the only logical thing you can do next is a master's in engineering, right? Even because back then I thought of applying to film schools, but even to apply to a film school, you need some sort of a portfolio, right? You need some sort of a body of work to showcase, and uh, then only then they're gonna admit you. And I didn't even have that. Like all I had was interest to become a filmmaker, or curiosity to become a filmmaker. So I thought, okay, then maybe I'll first do masters in engineering, and then I'll explore this curiosity to see where it leads. So I was doing my master's in software engineering, and then parallelly, I was making short films with my friends, uh, with my classmates on my own in the US, just to see how things are. And then I did a summer course in Czech Republic in FAMU Prague. Uh, and so it's a very great film school, but I had the opportunity to do like a summer workshop there, and that really, propelled a lot of foundations in a good way. And then, of course, if you're doing a master's in engineering, you can't do it for free. There'll be loans for you to pay back. So to finish those loans, I had to work as a software engineer or the front end developer, and that took another 2 years of my time. Right. So as I was finishing off the loans and trying to make films on the side, then slowly I had some sort of like a portfolio or a body of work to present. Then I started applying to film schools as when I was working as a software engineer, and then luckily got accepted into film school, and then I had to quit my job and then uh, joined. Yeah, joined. Yeah, yeah. University of Texas at Austin.
Okay. So what was your experience while you quit your job? Your parents were okay with it?
So luckily, before quitting my job, I I married my girlfriend, and then I keep joking. I married her as an engineer, and then uh, and then switched gears. So it was also more of like, of course, no one would be okay immediately. They thought I was in some crazy phase, and just I didn't know what I was doing or something, and they thought my wife would set me in the right track, somewhat or so forth. But it was a decision. It was a mutual decision. Like my wife right now is also my producing partner. Like we've been making films for the past few years. So it was a plan in the making for the past couple of years, but to actually realize it, it took a lot of time for us because we had to make sure there's no financial uh, we were not held, we were not held by any financial barrier. So we had to make sure we applied to the right schools uh, with almost negligible tuition fees. So even in UT Austin, we got a scholarship. So I got a scholarship, so I didn't have to pay much tuition or anything for that matter. So, and overall, I think the experience in the film school was um, really valuable because it gave me the time and space to sort of figure out uh, what kind of a filmmaker you want to be. And it allows you an opportunity to live and breathe cinema for like 3 4 years straight without thinking about anything else. So you are in that, you're given that time and space to make your work and to really figure out how you're resonating with your own work, and what kind of work you want to do in the future. And of course, the kind of collaborators you get, your classmates, they inspire you, they motivate you. So you're really in that zone for 2 3 years straight, so which I think is very valuable.
So if somebody wants to become a filmmaker, like if they want to become a filmmaker, cinematographer, anything, so you would advise them to go to film school, learn.
I mean, this is something that worked for me, but I don't think I can generalize it and say, oh, everybody should go to film school. Absolutely not, because there is no one. Uh, how should I say it? Like I feel like everybody's journey is different, and I think as filmmakers, you have to discover what is the right journey for you. Yes, if you have the means to build a portfolio, to afford to become a film student for 3 to 4 years, without being drawn out by other pressures or anything. Yes, maybe film school is the right. thing for you to do. I have many of my friends who did not go to film schools, but they're yet wonderful, wonderful filmmakers. And you know the legendary filmmakers too, like Tarantino never went to a film school, and yeah. So there's it's a choice. It's depending on your current situation. I think you should assess and figure out what is the right next step for you. If you're a kind of a person who would thrive with a hands-on, more of an industry approach, then maybe you can straight up start working somewhere and learn the craft.
Okay. Before making Testimony of Anna, did you assisted somewhere or did you work as an AD somewhere?
No, no, absolutely not, because I didn't have the time to be able to pursue that path. So the only viable option at that point for me was to get into a film school and to be this sort of to have that time and space for me to make. So no, I didn't assist anyone or work
So,
anywhere.
how the idea for Testimony of Anna came and what was your experience? Because it is a documentary, short documentary, and how the idea came.
So the idea, it kind of, and this ties back to my bachelor's days in the state of Gujarat. So when I was doing my bachelor's itself, I was aware of certain news that there's been rampant attacks that were happening in the name of witch hunting, and there was already news back then, but it just sort of made me curious as to really understand, what is happening, why exactly is this happening. But back then, again, I was an engineer and not a filmmaker, so I didn't aggressively pursue it by doing any field work or anything. But later, when I joined film school, I had an opportunity to do my second year project, which is, I can make a documentary film. So I thought maybe now is a good time to revisit that curiosity and really explore by being on the ground, and by doing some field work to really understand what was happening. So the genesis of it really started from there, and then through the help of like social justice lawyers and journalists in the region who are actively working there, they helped me connect to survivor of the attack, and from there it took shape, and then we started filming, and
How
yeah,
long was the process like searching, shooting, editing, making the whole thing? How long
it
was it?
was like, I think, so we started the project in 2019, like around early 2019, something during the summer of 2019, before the summer of 2019. And then the final film was done, I think, by end of 2020. So yeah, so almost like a year, because it's a year long project, and I think that time COVID came, and it pushed the post production a little bit, but which gave me a little more time in the edit to think about the film, to think about the structure, to think about how I should.
You
Uh,
always thought about making it a documentary or ever thought about making a feature, convert it into feature or a long feature?
no, no, I don't think it would work in any other format apart from how it is uh, right now, because this is exactly, I mean, we did shoot other stuff. For example, when we were filming, we had interviews with the lawyers, we had interviews with the journalists, we had, so, like all these interviews of experts giving their opinions. But somewhere in the edit, it didn't fit because that would be a completely different film altogether. That would be a sort of a film you would watch on, like a typical conventional traditional storytelling format. So we thought, no, it should only be the story of Anna, and only she has the right to tell her story, and so that's why even in the film, if you see, it's only her voice that you'll hear. You don't hear anyone else's. Like, it's just her trying to tell what has happened to her, Um it's her trying to tell what has happened to her, and just sort of yeah, and that's how it.
I remember one scene like she asked you like, "Can you give her justice?" Like there's a
Yeah,
dialogue there,
yeah,
so it's so like poetic and beautiful and so heartbreaking as well.
yeah, and she'll only say, you can't. Like she'll ask me that question, and that's the whole point of, I think, documentary filmmaking too. It's such a, you are really trying to, you're determined to change the world, but nothing really changes in the end. So, but I think what matters is you try, right? You at least try to do something.
Yeah. Was there any difficulties which you may have faced while shooting it?
Actually, lots of difficulties. I mean, in terms of production, like we were like very minimal crew, not more than 3 to 4 people. But to just to get um Ona to really trust our purpose and trust our process. I think that took a lot of time. Obviously, you're an outsider. You can't simply barge into somebody else's life and somebody else's home and say, I'm going to make a film about you and your life. Nobody's going to be okay with that, right? But I think you have to communicate what is your end goal with this film, right? Like with this film, of course, you're not making a mainstream blockbuster film to get or mint money in theaters. That's not the purpose. But what you're really trying to do is, there was this woman who has shown utmost and powerful resistance even in the darkest of the darkest times. And somehow the filmmaker in me was trying to think that, okay, somebody should be there to document the resistance that she has shown. And cinema can do that. The medium of cinema allows you to, document her, the memories of this resistance. So what really happens with this is, now if you make a film about what has happened to Anna, it's not just about Anna's life anymore. It's also about a lot of other victims who are going through this thing, and you're somehow, I don't know how to describe the feeling, but you're sort of
Responsibility.
immortalized, not even responsibility, but you're sort of immortalizing a voice. Like now her voice will be heard for many more years to come, even if she's no longer physically present in this earth. I don't know if that is making sense. So it's sort of like, you're and that's the power of cinema itself. And that was the whole purpose for me to make the film, is to really encapsulate her voice and preserve it for the generations to come, so that the generations to come would be able to listen to what has happened to her and acknowledge the fact that, in this time of the day this has happened. And uh, yeah, something like that.
Then it won the national award, and it was for the race for Oscar as well for short documentary. So how does it feel when, as a filmmaker, you get so much attention? And I think it was your you were making this film while you were studying your. So how does
Yes,
it feel
I
as
mean, like, to be honest, the awards and even the race for the Oscars, it feels, for any filmmaker, it feels good because there's some sort of validation that's coming in for the work that you're doing. But at the same time, because I think this is a documentary film, right? Because this is a non-fiction film, it's based on people's real lives. It also hurts you in a way that, no matter how many awards you get, their lives are not going to immediately change. The feeling would have been different probably if you're making a different kind of a film, fiction. So it's still, or I still have to learn how to live with this fact that when with the actor. But what I'm really proud of is at least her voice is being uh, heard across many countries now. At least more than the awards, the kind of film festival selections we had, we were able to show the film in Poland. We were able to show the film in like various countries, even in our India. Like we were able to show it in Kerala. So what's happening is more people are really listening to her voice, and more people are being aware of this. So that gives me a lot of happiness as a filmmaker. I think more than the awards and
I think
whatnot. The
I
awards
think
feel good
that's
because
the power of documentary filmmaking also, because it tells the story of a community, of a particular community, that not a particular fiction film can tell.
absolutely, and you're just there with your camera at the right time to see the reality unfold in front of your eyes, and it's just pure magic.
How important is editing while making a documentary?
I think it's very very important. I think that is where your documentary, that is where you write, uh, and when I say write, not like fictionally writing, but really piece it together to really understand how your film is gonna unfold.
Okay. Then you
So
made your film Men in Blue. So how the idea came for that and what was experience there?
yeah, Testimony of Anna was again my second year project. It was like we here call it like a pre-thesis film, the film you make before your diploma film. So after we finished that, then I had to do my diploma film, my thesis film. Then for that, I thought it's better I explore um something else, something that is happening over here in the US, and then it's again based on true events, but it's not a documentary, but it's a fiction film. So we wanted to sort of unearth some sort of a dark history that has happened in the state of Texas. So based on true events, it talks about the labor exploitation of these Indian immigrants who were trafficked from India, and who were subjected to uh, sort of very fraudulent promises, and they were made to work in very dangerous conditions. So when writing, yeah, that's how Men in Blue started, and then slowly we built a team, and uh, we tried to like cast actors in the state of Texas, and then the production happened, I think, in 2022, and the film was finished by end of 2022. So from last year, we've been showing it around festivals, and it's not released yet because we're still in the process of finishing our festival run, but we were able to show it in a couple of places.
The main actor, please help me pronounce his name, because he was in Deepan, which won the Palme d'Or. So
Yeah,
how,
yeah, yeah. He's Mr. Anthony Thassen.
yes,
Yesudasan.
how you approach him and what was your experience while working with him? Because he's a
Yeah,
fantastic actor. He's worked in Deepan with Jacques Odat, who is the who is really one of the best director in the world. So how is
very true, very true. And it was like a really great privilege for me to work with him because, again, I was a big fan of Deepan, and the way he performed in the film really was amazing. And for me, especially more than anything, in this film, I wanted to cast a person who understood what I was trying to make here, because you can't simply, I mean, of course they're great actors, but I thought, and I knew a little bit of uh, uh, his background as well, not just as an actor, but also as a novelist, about the writings he has done when he escaped from Sri Lankan civil war, and when he became a refugee. So I thought maybe he really has the baggage to understand this world and understand these characters. So that's where I thought I think he would be the right fit to kind of even represent, not just perform, but represent uh, these characters, who are going through this angst and who are going through this oppression, because at some point in his life he has faced these experiences, not in a fictional world but in real world, right? So I thought that would be an interesting process, and in a more selfish reason, I would get to learn from him as well, to understand how his acting processes, and how, and even to understand how working in Deepan was for him, to understand all that. So that's how we approached him, and he really liked the idea and the story, and he said he'd be more than happy to do it, and that's where it really took off.
Okay. As you have said, you are currently you have done your graduation in film school.
Yeah. I graduated in 2020, end of 2022.
Okay. Okay.
I'm done with my film school, but currently I'm just teaching
Oh, okay.
filmmaking
Okay.
in a university in Texas,
Okay.
in a different university in Texas, but just currently trying to do that until the next project is mounted.
Okay.
So it's taking some time. So
So
but I'll
do
reach there.
recommend some films, sir, because you are a teacher as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, recommendations wise, oh man, like there's no one, like the list will
You
go
can
on and
list.
on.
You can give your full list. Like it's can be unlimited. It doesn't matter.
In order to unlimited, but maybe I'll share like a few films. Otaku, the third one in the trilogy, which is, has, again, I saw it for the first time in the course that I took in my bachelor's studies, and it really blew me away with the amount of care and uh, with the kind of gentleness it was depicted. Then, of course, Mr. Maniratnam's Bombay was also very important viewing for me. I can go on and on. Like outside India, there are um, Ken Loach is a filmmaker that I greatly admire, and his film "The Wind That Shakes the Barley" was again uh, very important for me to watch it. And there's a filmmaker from Taiwan, Hao Shen. He made a film called Dust in the Wind, which I think is also, it had such spiritual quality to it that I can't put into words. It's a film that I deeply enjoy. Then there's also other filmmakers too, like I think from Portugal, Pedro Costa, who has made amazing films like Vitalina Varela, Horse Money, and I can go on and on. There's no end to it, but these are like I think some of the filmmakers and films that I feel close to my heart. Yeah, sure. In India, I think in the contemporary uh, sort of space, I think I really like the work of Chaitanya Tamhane, for example, who's doing some very interesting films, and who's doing really good. And I was also blown away by Mr. P.S. Vinod Raj's Kurangal Pebbles. It was a film which I thought was, I think, one of the greatest debuts in the recent times. Never seen anything like that. So yeah, I think there's many. Um, and you said even outside of India, right? Outside of India, in the contemporary space, I really like the work of this American filmmaker, Sean Baker. Sean Baker, who made Florida Project, and like as a very and Red Rocket. So he's again a filmmaker who I think is, I don't know, a very unique voice, but telling extremely important stories. So he's a filmmaker that I like, and of course, like there are like many more. I can go on and on.